Hi, I'm Jerry Lynn Elias, and I'm with Kate Spade & Company. I'm here today as chair of the newly formed Fashion Industry Group, and I'm joined by Elizabeth May from Richemont. Richemont owns such brands as Chloe, Alfred Dunhill, Shanghai Tang, and Net-a-Porter. And I'm also joined by Patty Connor from Volcom. Volcom is one of the Kering Group's family of brands, and they also own Gucci, Puma, and Stella McCartney. Thank you both for joining me today. So we're here today to discuss why the fashion industry is important. Why it's important for members of the fashion industry to come together as a group to really enhance their trademark needs in the industry. Why do you think that trademark protection is so important among fashion industry members?
Oh, Jerry, the fashion industry is one of the very largest industries worldwide. In addition, it's super high profile and it's extremely prone to infringement. And so the fashion industry relies predominantly on trademark protection because that's what's available to us. But design protection is a key element, and in the United States, that's not an option at the moment. I believe that's is available in the EU.
That's right. Design protection is available. It's slightly more available than it is in the US. We have community registered designs, unregistered designs. There's something very useful in France called the simplified design registration. And while in some countries it's easier to enforce those design rights, it still can be very difficult. You can have a design, but when it actually comes to enforcing it, that's where the problems arise.
So you can make the filing, but actually...
Exactly. So that's why trademark protection is still key for the fashion industry.
And I think because we invest so much time and energy and money in the marketing and the product development and making sure that they're high quality products, that just protection of the trademarks that stand for what those brands mean is so important to all of us in our jobs, because otherwise our companies can't sell the products that they are spending so much time and energy on. And I think also with counterfeiting and things like that, in the fashion industry, it's so prevalent because it's so easy to do.
Consumers, when they go out there, they're looking for the brand, they're looking for the brand name, and that's where the brand value is, and that's key for all of us, and that's why we need to protect it.
Well, why do you think fashion is different than any other industry?
One of the key things that we've found, or that I'm aware of, is that it's the designer's name, it's the brand name that needs protection, and this has been picked up by a lot of infringers. I'm aware of young designers, they get out there, they're on the catwalk for the first time. They then are picked up perhaps by a larger group, and they are told to, let's stop protecting your name. But they've found that already their names have been registered as trademarks in other countries around the world. So it's really key that as soon as that designer's up and coming, people get out there, they register their name as soon as they can for a defensive measure, if nothing else. And I think that's one of the important takeaway messages is to,
Exactly.
register your brand as a trademark. Get your name registered as soon as possible.
And often.
Exactly. Because otherwise you're going to be used, or the infringers, the people who've got there before you, they're going to hold you to ransom, and they're going to want some money out of you to get your name back.
Especially in those first to file countries.
Exactly.
First to use.
Exactly.
And I think also, what makes fashion different is the fact that it's so cyclical. So, what comes around, it makes it such that the inspiration behind the fashion is a fine line between, inspiration and infringement.
Fashion, once it's out on the red carpet, we have to turn and start over. It's not like a phone or a bowling ball or what have you, where you work on that base and you continue to improve, and it's around for years sometimes. In fashion, it turns every season 5 times a year, and it's and back to your inspiration, which
the different collections, fall, winter, spring, summer, and holiday, and the fact that there's nothing's really new, because what you see
Correct.
in the 70s and 80s, everything seems to come back, and that's where you have to really look at the inspiration versus too close.
And again, because there's such a quick turnover, again, that's why perhaps design protection or when you're registering designs is not, it's so difficult, and the costs involved, you can't keep registering your designs for each collection. So again, coming back to trademarks, that's why trademarks, your brand is so important, because that's continuous throughout.
The name, the style.
Exactly, that's continuous throughout the collections.
Right. And what do you think within the fashion world? Obviously, technology plays a big part, and it's playing even more and more a bigger part. How do you think that technology is going to become a challenge for the fashion industry?
Well, one aspect that we're concerned about is the improvement and use of 3D printing. Previously, this was seen as more for engineering, R&D, architectural practices, but it's now much, much cheaper. You can buy a printer for a couple of £1,000, couple of $1,000, and this has brought printing into the home. So it can be, of course, an advantage for the fashion industry as well. And fashion industries are using 3D printing.
I saw it on the runway, in fact.
Exactly.
Last Fashion Week.
Exactly. Yeah, and amazing things are being produced. But on the flip side, it's also a bonus for counterfeiters, because counterfeiters now can produce copies very cheaply in their own home, within their own country. So they're going to avoid customs.
You don't rely on a factory per se.
Exactly. It's going to be so much cheaper to start churning out copies.
And sort of tied to that in a technological era is the wearable technologies, and just what direction they're going to take and how to protect them, and what is unique versus building on a prior invention.
But also in the technology field, I think you'll both agree with me that marketing and direct-to-consumer, the technology that is really given the marketers in our companies the ability to interact directly with consumers, also opens the door for counterfeiters to get to the consumer much quicker. Yeah. So from a trademark protection and enforcement perspective, it's a huge challenge for technology given the direct-to-consumer capabilities. I know, we're using a lot of different new technologies, as are many companies, to get our ability to interact with consumers, and I think that's a really big concern. Also, the ability for counterfeiters to get in there too.
It's hard for us to keep up with the challenges of catching the counterfeiters and just knowing which venue and which, do we go after copyright law or trademark? What if they didn't put the mark on there? And so having this group, it has been fabulous to be able to interface and overlap with people in the identical industry with the identical challenges.
Thank you so much, Patty and Elizabeth, for coming today and for joining me with this conversation.